If you like being depressed, enjoy having no drive in your life to improve, want to be lazy, love being an underachiever, then this show is not for you. Get off your loser attitude and stay tuned to the Dani Johnson Show.
You're a winner!
You were born to be a winner.
We help you dig deep. We motivate. We inspire.
The Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We're really blessed that you made a choice to join us today, and I hope and pray that today is a huge blessing to you. I believe that it will be because today's topic really infiltrates every single area of our lives. And when I say every area, I mean every area. There's very few things that can be tucked down deep within our souls that affect our finances, our emotions, our habits, our purchasing habits, our cravings, our current relationships, even future relationships, our past relationships. There's very few things that can have that much of an impact, or if you will, a web that is connected, that keeps all these things kind of, well, not in their best. We'll just say that, just not in their best. Recently, I was on an airplane, and I had this thought come to my mind, and I think I know where the thought had come from. But I had been kind of pondering on the topic of unforgiveness. And when I looked at the different places that unforgiveness, if you will, almost like seriously, like a web, almost like a spider web, how it's just kind of invisible, right? If the light catches it a certain way, then you can see it. But sometimes you walk into a little web because you can't always see it. And, but you can feel it, right? So even like if a spider is trying to cross over a large pathway, and meaning flying through the air, and there he sends his little, I don't know what you call that, little spidey web thingamajigger. But anyway, you feel it when it crosses over your face, right? You feel it when it hits your arm, but you can't necessarily see it unless you really, really have to look at it. And that's exactly what unforgiveness is like in our lives. It's a web. It's connected and interconnected into all different types of areas of our lives. It really does have an impact on the decisions that we make, the people we choose to hang out with or not to hang out with. It really does infiltrate our business decisions, our finance decisions, our future, as well as who we marry or who we don't. It really kind of is it's like a centerpiece of power that many of us don't even know is happening inside of us. So we're going to explore that today. We really are. We all have been hurt, right? Every single one of us. We've all encountered people who have not done what they said they were going to do. They made promises, they did not keep them. And we will encounter moving forward the same exact thing. And I've often said, as I've done a lot of different business and finance and relationship training, that forgiveness cannot be a once-in-a-lifetime event, but it has to be a lifestyle, a part of our everyday life. And the reason is because forgiveness is so powerful. In fact, it's so powerful that the medical community has been doing studies on it for more than a decade. In fact, I remember a decade ago that 1,200 studies were going on concerning the topic of forgiveness and the power of forgiveness versus unforgiveness. Both are very, very powerful. And the medical community had some preliminary reports that were showing that they could actually link unforgiveness to cancer, that it literally rots the inside of us out and will even kill us. Bitterness, right? Because that's what happens. Unforgiveness then turns into bitterness and resentment, and it really clouds the way we see life, the way we see people, even how we see ourselves, how we see opportunity. We can become very, very pessimistic, very negative. The Debbie Downer is now the crowd that we would choose to hang out with. The negative Nelly, those types of people, generally, people like to stay away from those kinds of people. And so the medical community also had come up with some preliminary studies saying that it was also linked to heart disease, and also hypertension, which it led to strokes. And again, this is pressure, right? When we are carrying a hurt, an offense that we've had against somebody else, we find ourselves getting mad really easy. We fly off the handle very, very easily, at something that could be very, very small, but our response is absolutely enormous to the very small thing that happened. And I found myself to be that kind of a person, especially many years ago. You've heard me talk about my early days in business and the very first millionaire that I had the opportunity to learn and work with. he used to say that my biggest problem is that I reacted all the time. Everything was just huge, right? Something bad happens. It's just the world is falling apart and everything's caving in on me and everybody's against me. That's kind of how I felt in those early years of business, and no small wonder. But here's when I was sitting on the airplane, this is what had come to me. And I think airplanes are a good time for self-reflection instead of playing some Candy Crush game, instead of surfing the internet some more. Being on an airplane is a good time to reflect and to kind of look in the mirror and think about what you've been thinking about and decisions maybe that you're facing in the future. And that's often a place where I'll do that. And what I looked at was how forgiveness or unforgiveness was linked to anxiety. Often when I'm doing some business consulting or coaching, some personal coaching with somebody, that unforgiveness is present in those who are very anxious. Anxiety, where does it come from? What are people anxious about? It's usually because they feel out of control. There's something they can't control. And usually people who try to control things are people who've been hurt. They've experienced a divorce, when they were a kid, or they might have been molested or raped or had something stolen from them or had some physical trauma or a physical trauma happened in the family. A number of different things that took them out of a secure place and put them in a very insecure place. And this is what causes people to want to control. This is one thing. And those who want to be in control often are anxious, that they know the fact that they cannot be in control of all things. You just can't. So unforgiveness is actually linked to that. Unforgiveness is linked to a low self-esteem, not feeling worthy of things, feeling a low self-worth, being critical. Unforgiveness is linked to criticism, condemnation of self and of others, distrust. Have you ever encountered somebody that they just, that's all they see in people. All they see is the bad. All they are looking for is how somebody cannot be trusted. There could be somebody with the most incredible, purest, holiest motives, but when somebody is carrying unforgiveness of somebody else from the past, they see everybody else not to be trustworthy. And they always keep everybody at arm's length. They never let somebody in. And they always have this kind of a judgment on somebody that isn't even founded. It's just assumed. And that individual lives their life in assumptions. And assumptions can be very painful because assumptions go from an assumption to then a blanket judgment and then arguing that the judgment is correct and acting on the assumptions, which always makes an idiot out of everybody. But have you ever noticed that? We all have different understanding and perceptions of people. And much of our perceptions and much of our understanding of people largely comes, unfortunately, from a wounded place. So unforgiveness also is linked to sleepless nights. Do you have insomnia? Or you find it hard for your body to rest, for your mind to shut off? I bet if you and I sat down for a few minutes, we could pretty much track it to unforgiveness. Also, having that short fuse, right? Man, it's like, yeah, the tone is instant, you're an idiot. The tone is instant, you're bugging me, quit annoying me. When we talk to the kids or the people that you're working with, it's like your patience level is really, really low. And that too is evidence of not having a practice of forgiveness, but harboring unforgiveness. Then, of course, there is the addictions, the pornography, the food addictions, all of these things, television addiction, entertainment addictions, drugs, alcohol, weed, you name it. These addictions that come and become a part of our lives, in fact, be the very leading thing in our lives. And as I've worked with different people, I can tell you it still all comes back down to there being unforgiveness towards somebody or a certain group of people or towards oneself. So I have a question for you. What do you think about all this? You think it's a bunch of hogwash? I'm just sitting there on an airplane and I'm just kind of thinking and pondering some things, and this kind of comes to me and I'm like, dang, man, when I look at every big ego trip that I've ever had in my life, I pretty much can just say, wow, it's because I didn't forgive. It's because even those places where we want to be vindicated, we want someone to defend us. This is a place of unforgiveness even still. And wanting to be vindicated and want to be defended, or somebody to take away all the pain, again, what's the root? It's the pain. And unfortunately, unforgiveness never leads to being vindicated. Unforgiveness never, ever leads to that place of somebody defending us. No. But having a clean heart does, believe it or not. Having a clean heart does. So what do you think about this? Do you believe that unforgiveness can cause all these different problems in your life? Do you have fruit in your life of any of the things that I've just talked about? And you say, man, Dani, yeah, that makes sense. So here's my phone number, 844-200-3264. Let's talk about this today. 844-200-3264. Let this be a day where we remove hindrances in our lives that are holding us back from that financial breakthrough that we're looking for, that's holding us back from getting to the next place in our marriage where there's a deeper love and respect and honor for each other, a greater harmony, a greater sense of peace between each other, a greater intimacy with each other. Instead of things being totally surface, but now there's just this greater deep trust and intimacy, which I think all of us long to have with our spouse. But if unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment is present, it will not be achieved. 844-200-3264. Again, that's 844-200-3264. You got the guts to talk about this? I want you to call me and share. Or have you been able to move past these things, right? Was there a place that you really harbored a lot of bitterness and resentment and you had some kind of an experience that made you just go, forget it? I'm just going to forgive. I'm going to move on. And what happened? What was the direct result of you choosing to let go? Choosing to forgive, choosing to give somebody else what you would want if you were the one in the wrong. Because you and I have all fallen short. We've all fallen short. We have messed up so many times in our lives. And if we are really honest and true about it, we wanted forgiveness when we've hurt somebody else. And there's many times that we've hurt somebody else without trying, meaning we didn't mean to. It wasn't like our aim, I'm going to hurt that guy today. It just is what we did. There's no justification for it. We were an idiot. We messed up. But in that moment, whether we did it on purpose or not on purpose, what would we want from that person? We want forgiveness. So have you ever been able to give that which you want? And what was the result of it? 844-200-3264. Again, that's 844-200-3264. I'm really looking forward to hearing your personal story on the power of forgiveness or the power of unforgiveness. What did it turn you into? I know this, man. I've been a monster from time to time. I have. It's terrible. It's nasty. And unforgiveness just breeds more opportunity to need forgiveness and not get it, right? Because who do we act like? What do we act like when we're not loving or merciful to somebody else? You know what it is. We act like an idiot. We do. Myself, a principality of darkness, like evil. I'm blown away of what can come out of me when I'm not walking in love, but instead walking in unforgiveness. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Don't just stand there. Soak this up. It's joy, it's encouragement, it's insight to a better life and how to meet your obligations and overcome obstacles.
The Dani Johnson Show.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
No excuses, just results. And now, back to more of the Dani Johnson Show.
Unforgiveness will pollute your future, have you end up in the grave too early, and fill your life with hatred and malice and bitterness and loneliness because nobody wants to be around a bitter person. But forgiveness brings freedom. And it can actually bring physical healing. That's what 1,200 medical studies were doing. 10 years ago, there were 1,200 medical studies that found that forgiveness actually could bring physical healing, that when they walked people through the process of forgiveness, that all of a sudden cancer was gone? Really? Heart disease, lower blood pressure? The list goes on of the health benefits of one who is willing to take the high road, willing to give that which they know they're going to need in the future, because none of us are perfect. All of us mess up. So over here, we're going to the phones. We want to hear your story about forgiveness. What things have you had to forgive? Or is it too hard for you? Or have you found that, yes, when you were living with that unforgiveness, what kind of fruit was in your life because of it? And why do we want to talk about this? Because we need a reminder. Listen, the church never talks about this. I mean, it just blows my mind how Jesus literally came to die on the cross for the forgiveness of our failures, our sins, our weaknesses, our filthiness, our guilt, our shame, our pain. And yet we don't ever really hear about that. And that's sad. I do, fortunately, where I go to church, but in most places that I've been, it's not talked about. There's all these other things that are talked about. But forgiveness, I'm telling you, it is the pathway to success in every area of your life. And immature people cannot forgive. And immaturity has nothing to do with age. So you've got some kind of a story. Let's share it. Let's talk about it. Because I think we can all learn from it. There's no question. I know I need to learn from it. This is Dani Johnson, Alexa from Florida. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dani.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, my unforgiveness manifested itself physically. Basically, I went to my first steps of success in January, and we prayed about men that had hurt us.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about this. This was something that had happened many years before, and I just had put it away. But that past 2 weeks, I was suffering from pain in my Achilles tendon, severe pain where I couldn't even walk on my heel or my tendon, even touch the tendon. It was in a lot of pain. And the moment that I had someone pray over me regarding forgiveness of a man that had hurt me in my past, I physically felt heat run through my body and specifically my legs.
Wow.
And when we were done praying, yeah, it's amazing. When we were done praying, I was literally jumping up and down because I couldn't believe that I didn't feel what I was feeling for the past 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was gone, and it hasn't returned.
Wow. Okay, so Alexa, there's something I'm kind of catching from what you're throwing out here. And I don't know if you realize this. That's so interesting. You had unforgiveness towards a man who had hurt you. Number one, I want to hear how you were hurt. Number two, I want you to see where the pain went to. The pain was at your feet. What would that represent? That would be a hindrance of you going towards your destiny. That would be a hindrance. That was bondage wrapped around your feet to stop you from being joyful, to stop you from being loved, to stop you from being all that you were created to be. I find it ironic that the unforgiveness you had towards a man was wrapped around your feet and caused great pain to your feet. And as soon as you made the choice to forgive this person, freely you have received forgiveness. Freely you chose to give it, and your feet were healed. You weren't praying for your feet to be healed, were you?
I wasn't.
No.
I just wanted the release of the feeling of unforgiveness because it is binding.
Yes, it is binding, and it brings bondage. Yes, it does. Okay, listen, we have to take a short break, but Alexa, I want you to kind of share what had happened with this man that you had to forgive, because so many people like to make the size of what the hurt was to determine whether or not they'll give it. So whether it was big or it was small, I want you to have the courage to share what it is, because we want to know, like, what needed to be forgiven. Was it big? Was it small? Well, obviously, it paid a price. Your body paid a price for whatever it was. And so somebody needs to be encouraged today to forgive. They also need to see, because the Bible's very clear, the best success book ever written says to forgive and you'll be healed. That's what it says. So it means that our pain is tied to our unforgiveness. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Hey, have you done a favor for your best friend yet? Then do it now. Share this program with them. The Dani Johnson Show, helping hundreds of thousands of people just like you make life more enjoyable and rewarding. The Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. The most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities, and they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage. And I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets.
We're back. Here's Dani Johnson.
Forgiveness is a gift. Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. You know, we've all suffered through a lot of pain in our lives. We have. And we're going to continue to suffer pain in our lives. I want you to know that. And if we're the kind of person that when we've been hurt, we harbor bitterness and resentment, we will not forgive the person that hurt us. We won't forgive them until they come and they beg for it 10,000 times and then maybe. And then once we can see that they've made some kind of a change, well, then we might forgive them. I'm telling you, conditional forgiveness is not forgiveness at all. And I know this, I'm a wretched, filthy woman. I have a wretched, filthy past, filled with all kinds of hurts that have come at me and all kinds of hurts that I've put at other people, knowingly and unknowingly. But the fact is that if you and I want to live in freedom, and if you and I want to reach our destiny and be all that we have been called to be, we cannot take unforgiveness with us to the grave. We cannot. Unforgiveness will cause pain in your body. That's what Alexa was just sharing, that she actually was not even looking for prayer for her foot to be healed. For 2 weeks, she couldn't walk. She had severe pain in her Achilles heel. And all of a sudden, she wound up at First Steps to Success, just like the one we have coming up in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Ohio, in October. Here she was. We were walking her through the process of forgiveness so that you are not bound to your past, but that you are set free to live a brand new life, build new businesses, new careers, change your finances, have better health. And really, it all starts with getting rid of the resentment and bitterness by forgiving those who have harmed you. Forgive yourself for the stupid things you've done and move on. And Alexa found that she was healed. Now, I think it's so funny, Alexa. People in the very places where healing and miracles is believed, which is not that many places. I happen to be one that believes in that because I've experienced several physical healings. But that here, so many people will be asking God to give them a physical healing. However, they have no idea why the pain is actually there, just like you had no idea why the pain was in your feet. And when the Lord healed your feet, the minute you forgave the man, you learned something right there. That pain was tied to your sin of unforgiveness, not the sin of the man who committed the sin against you, but your pain was tied to the sin of unforgiveness. Isn't he awesome that he forgave you as soon as you forgave that man?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Absolutely.
powerful? It's beautiful, beautiful. So what had this man done that made you hold? First of all, how long did you hold on to this offense against this man?
Over 10 years, probably 15 years.
Wow. And what happened, baby?
I was raped.
You were raped
By a friend's husband.
Wow. That's a huge, huge offense. A huge hurt. And at First Steps to Success in January, Alexa, you had the courage to listen to that message on forgiveness. And you had the courage to say, I choose to forgive. What was it like to live in that pain for 15 years? I'm not talking about the pain in the foot. We know the pain in the foot was only there for 2 weeks. But the pain, what was that like to live with that resentment, that bitterness, that hatred that you had towards this man?
It was basically, I put it aside and I tried not to think about it because I felt like I put myself in a position, I kind of blamed myself.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it wasn't my fault, but it had been so many years. And, you know, I just came to a place where I didn't want revenge or to hurt anybody's family and such. So I just kind of buried it.
Yeah.
But it made me angry towards men in general.
Yeah.
You know, just even not forgiving other men in my life. like my father or my children's father. You know, just it came to a point when I went to First Step to Success in January. I think that I had just had enough. My cup was like overflowing with that.
Overflowing with pain? And, like, what were your thoughts like? You may say, like, you just didn't trust men, period.
I didn't trust anyone, and I didn't ever want to be vulnerable. Like, I couldn't even go, like, to a hairdresser who was a man. Like, I didn't want to be that close in proximity.
That makes it hard to live.
And even with people that were trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you see those that were trustworthy? Talk to me about that. How did you see people that actually were trustworthy? What was your view of them?
I doubted that men were trustworthy in general.
Yeah. And that's typically what happens.
People love more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens to many of us who have not forgiven, whether it's a gender, right, or even a race, because this happens also even racially, that, you know, I was molested when I was 3 by a Hispanic man, and I did not trust anybody that was Hispanic. Nobody. And I didn't know why until it was revealed to me that, whoa, I hate Hispanics because of one man that fell into crazy temptation that might have even been demonically oppressed and took advantage of a 3-year-old. And it turns out, I found out when I was 18 that I was Hispanic, that my father was Nicaraguan, like a full-blooded Nicaraguan guy with a really thick accent and a giant eyebrow and a huge mustache. You know, like, oh my gosh, my whole family is Nicaraguan. You know, like, wow. And I could have this same hatred towards my whole family had I did not forgive a man that I never knew his name. I barely remember what he looked like, but I was able to forgive him. And that was incredible how right away I felt this freedom and actual love that came eventually towards my own people that I would have rejected just because of one mistake that one person made that had a certain color of skin, a certain kind of accent in their voice, which is sad, and that's what we do. Alexa, I'm really, really proud of you. I am. It takes a lot of courage, number 1, to confess what you just confessed. Number 2, to realize that both parties had a part in it, but that, you know, you were not the only one at fault. He was not the only one at fault. It happened. It was a bad deal. It's a painful deal. It's horrible what it does inside of us. And I'm so proud of you that you took my invitation in January to forgive all the men in your life who had harmed you. And look what the Lord did. He forgave you because you forgave them, and he healed your foot. And as you said, I still have no pain in my foot. He healed you indeed. It's amazing. It really is.
And Dani, what he's actually also given me is that now I can see people, when it comes to forgiving, I see them as God's children, like his children, his hurt children, not like the person that's trying to harm me. Like I can see them as like what's behind that action.
Yes. Versus judging the person. Isn't it so easy to judge, Alexa? It's so easy for us to judge, but we all hate being judged. We all hate it when people point out our sin. But boy, is it easy for us to point out somebody else's or judge their motives or what they were thinking and all that stuff. And there's no freedom in that. But there certainly is freedom in what you said. You see, that's proof that he healed you because now you carry his compassion. And that compassion that says, man, if I were in the same shoes, I probably would have made the same mistake. And if God forgives them, I certainly can forgive them too. Jesus took on the beating for that sin. So the price is paid. So why am I holding this against them? I'm really proud of you. I really am. Thanks so much for sharing. I really appreciate you tremendously. Yeah, thank you. This is Dani Johnson. We're talking about the power of forgiveness. Look at that, man. She had a physical healing because of it. I think it's incredible. All right, we got Simone from Loganville, Georgia. So, Simone, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, thank you. I'm responding to your to the post on Facebook, and I said forgiveness has freed my heart. And what I meant by that was that I've chosen, excuse me if I get upset, to forgive the boys who murdered my son. It's a process, and I pray every night for it. But I have chosen to forgive them so that my heart can be free.
Yes.
without forgiveness, my life would be filled with anger, hate, bitterness, torture, torment, and there would be no happiness and no chance for joy.
Yes.
I would not be the only one to suffer. My whole family would suffer as well, and anybody who came into contact with me. But doing this, it really freed my heart, and it opened up the many blessings that God has waiting for me.
Yes.
And one of those blessings being a brand new baby boy.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, Simone. Wow. None of us have an excuse. I could not imagine having my son murdered. I could not imagine being faced with that kind of deep pain. Nothing in life prepares us for a suffering like that. Nothing in life does.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And yet you've made a choice, and I love the words you said. I have chosen to forgive my son's murderer. I've chosen to forgive. What you said was so powerful. I don't want us to just run over it. I would love for you to share some more details if you have the courage to do that, because there's somebody that needs to forgive somebody else that hasn't done anywhere near as hard of a thing that you've suffered through, and yet they're still holding on. So I know that your testimony is going to set someone free today. Hold the line just 1 minute, Simone. We'll continue with more of the Dani Johnson Show right after this.
You are listening to The Dani Johnson Show. Stay tuned for more of Dani Johnson in just a moment.
You want to succeed, right? But you do not want to fail God at the same time. There is a way to succeed from a biblical perspective, and it's far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Over 500 scriptures I studied to study money, everything that the Bible said about money. That's in the first couple chapters of Spirit-Driven Success. Not to mention leadership, working with people, growing a career, being used mightily in the marketplace, which is where Abraham, God used him in the marketplace. And Joseph, God used him in the marketplace. Moses, God used him in the marketplace. Daniel, Solomon, really all of the greats of faith, most of the greats of faith throughout the Bible, they all were in the marketplace. And God wants to show you how you can be used mightily by him in the marketplace. Right here, Spirit-Driven Success is where all of my notes are on how you can do that. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Spirit-Driven Success today.
Now, more of the Dani Johnson Show.
So one day you get a phone call and it comes to find out that your son's life has been taken by another. There's nothing that prepares you to handle that phone call. There's nothing that prepares your heart to manage the flood of emotions that take place in that very moment, not to mention the days ahead, the weeks ahead, the months and the years ahead. Nothing. But Simone found something to relieve the pain, a choice that she made that has helped her to deal with such a suffering. There's no other word to express what that would be like. Simone, man, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to share with us that pain that you went through and the choice that you made to forgive. How long ago did this happen, Simone?
3 years.
Wow. How old was your son?
He was 19.
And what was the situation? What happened?
He was set up and robbed and then shot to death.
And this happened in Georgia?
Yes. Yes. We've already been through trials and they've been convicted, and it's a very long process, and the healing process will be forever. I will continue to heal. I'll never be fully healed, but that forgiveness is the key to that healing beginning.
Yep.
Without that, there's just no healing that could be done.
Yeah, it's impossible to be healed if you don't forgive. You know, I love what you said before we took that break, and what you said was that your whole family, it wouldn't just be you that is suffering from the unforgiveness, the bitterness and the resentment. It wouldn't just be you, but it would be your husband. It'd be the other children.
Correct.
It'd be your entire family that would suffer if you would not forgive. What brought you to that revelation?
Self-awareness, I think, going to grief support groups and being able to step out of myself and see myself and see how angry I was and how bitter I was, and then other people realizing what they must be encountering when they're around me, because once I was able to see that, it was very eye-opening and shocking.
And kind of express what that was. Like, what did that look like? What did your anger look like? How did it manifest itself in your life? You're talking about just being at the grocery store with somebody cut you off on the highway, and, you know, you give them a few colorful 4-letter words.
Everywhere. Everywhere. I was ugly inside and out. I mean, I was just, I wasn't a nice person, and I didn't see it before until someone actually pointed it out as a joke. Of how angry I was, or I wanted everybody around me dead. I didn't want to deal with anybody. I didn't even want to be here. You know, I was ready to check out, and I just begged God to do with whatever He wanted with me, and He chose me to use my mess as my message and to help others. Yeah.
Now, when you say that you were ugly to everybody, and you say that you didn't even know that you were ugly, was there a part of you that wanted somebody else to pay for your pain?
Yes. I wanted everybody to pay for it. I wanted everybody to feel what I had to feel and what I was suffering. And I think that's the natural reaction.
Yeah, it is. That when we're hurting, we want somebody else to hurt too, which is so twisted, isn't it? It's really twisted.
Very.
It's kind of poisonous. It's like a poison that we subconsciously want to pass on to, like you wouldn't think about feeding your husband poison. But that's exactly what we're doing when we're carrying the bitterness and the resentment, and we're being ugly to everybody. We're giving them a taste of our poison and saying, come on, I want you to suffer with me. Why could you smile? How come you're not suffering as bad as I am? You should be suffering as bad as I am. It's a weird, twisted, demented evil, really, is what that is. Go ahead.
It is, and even if I smiled or even if I laughed, I was angry at myself and saying, how dare you be happy right now? How dare you smile? How dare you do this? He died, and you should never be happy again.
Wow.
But then I realized that God gave me life, too, and I choose to live it.
Yes. Yes. And your son would be happy with that, would he not?
He would. Yeah. He would. And I know that the new baby that I was blessed with was, somehow just, if I didn't forgive, there would be no way that I would have him.
No. Nor would you be able to love him. You'd be afraid.
No, he would have a horrible life.
Yes. So God gave you another chance. So not that I don't want to say another chance. He's given you a chance. No. He's given you a chance.
I believe in that. No, I believe He gave me a second chance. And if I don't choose to do with it the right thing and do everything, for Him, it's just not going to work.
That's right. Now, Simone, I want to challenge you on something, okay? And I want you to just think about this, all right? You said that that forgiveness is the beginning of the healing process and that you'll never be healed. I challenge you on that. Yes, you will. Because Jesus said He came to set you free. For the sake of being free, do not return back to a yoke of bondage. That what He did on the cross was enough, and that He took on all of your pain, Simone, all of your suffering. He took on all of your guilt and all of your shame. He took it all upon His back when they beat Him for our sin. And He didn't do it so that you'd be healed 50%. He didn't do it so you'd be healed to 75%. He didn't do that so that you'd be healed 99% and still leaving 1% unhealed. He did it for 100% of your complete healing and your complete restoration. And as that is complete, my sister, then His compassion will flow through you in a way that makes no sense at all. So I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that his sacrifice was for 100% of Simone and the father of your son and everybody else involved for their complete restoration. He's not a restorer of 30% or 70% or 80%. He is a restorer of 100%. And I choose to believe that, and I challenge you, my sister, because he's done it in me in so many areas in my life, girlfriend. So much suffering that I've endured. And it's the places where I haven't given it all to him. And here's one last thing, because you're the one that mentioned God, so I'm going here with you. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Therefore, that place that we're not allowing the Spirit of the Lord to go to, that's where there is suffering. That's where there is still hurt and pain. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have bad days. We all are going to encounter bad days, Simone. We all are going to. Whether our son was murdered or not, we're going to encounter bad days. But that is to say that your healer is with you, and he will restore you through and through 100%. This is Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll continue with more of the Dani Johnson Show right after this.
No contrite cliches. No bull. Just a real focus on life.
The Dani Johnson Show.
What she says comes straight from the heart. You can't make this stuff up. The Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
The Dani Johnson Show is here to help you.
We want to see your economy thrive.
Helping you focus and set your priorities.
And you can do this by learning the skill sets, the strategies, and the mindsets of 2% of the population.
The Dani Johnson Show.
Listen closely.
What are your weaknesses? What are your greatest strengths? And what are your weaknesses?
Learn how to make the most out of your strengths in this life and how to grow in the direction that is best for you and your family. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Dani, I'm not about to let somebody off the hook. Do you have any idea how bad they hurt me? I mean, they should die for what they did. Listen, friend, I have felt that same way many times. I can imagine that Simone, who joined us in the first hour of the show, that, her son was murdered. Hello, that would be a very difficult. I mean, her son was 19 years old. I mean, that would be a very difficult thing to forgive. But you see, hatred is a choice. Resentment is a choice. Sizing up somebody else's wrong up against your rights is a choice. But I know this, I have fallen short. I have fallen short in every way. I have done evil. I have thought evil. I have fallen into temptation too many times in my life. And I know this, that given the right opportunity at the right moment, being on the wrong track, which I know how to find, I could probably do something as stupid as what somebody else has done too. And I'm sure I have. Forgiveness is a choice. It's a choice we have to make. It's a choice you have to make. This is not letting somebody else off the hook. The reality is that unforgiveness is tormenting you, robbing you of your sleep, making you anxious about things at work or anxious about things with the kids. That unforgiveness is ruling your mind, making you an angry, bitter, ugly person, and you and I both know it. And the only way to come out of it is to make the choice to forgive, to realize that you are human and you have also done some bad things. Given the right opportunity, you could probably do worse things just like me. But we have to choose to forgive instead of judge. So we are taking your call, your story about a really hard situation that you've had to forgive. And what was the fruit that came out of making that choice to forgive? Over here, we've got Jen on the phone from Longview, Texas. Jen, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, Dani.
Hi.
I just wanted to share. All growing up, I can remember probably as early as the 6th grade, on through the 10th grade when I actually quit high school because of it. I was picked on a lot. I didn't have the right clothes. I didn't have the right amount of money, and so on and so forth. And I went to kind of a school district that was primarily a lot more of the more well-to-do crowd, if you'll say.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people would say. And I actually didn't realize how much unforgiveness I had harbored towards those kind of people until, oh goodness, it was probably in my early 30s when I was about 31 or 32, and part of that was when I went to my my first steps to success, and I began to realize how much other people and things in my past were affecting my current life, and it was like God just began to show me that I had kind of classified those group of people, and I had wanted absolutely nothing to do with them. So I could look at an adult or just even opportunities that I thought I might have to be around what I classified as those type of people. You know, the people who seem to always have their makeup perfect and, you know, great-looking hair, and if it was name-brand clothing or nice cars or whatever, I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I didn't want those things. It was almost like I had put up a wall, and I was like, okay, only these kind of people I'm going to let in. The people who are constantly settling for less, the people who are okay with not having enough, and I just can't be around those other kind of people. Even when it came to making, you know, important life decisions as far as like who I would marry, and things like that, I could never even fathom what it might be like for me to marry someone who was, you know, wealthy or who had it all together. I just didn't want to have anything to do with those kind of people, and ultimately it led me into, I was a drug addict for 10 years, just a whole lot of, a huge series of bad decisions, and I kind of realized when I was 31 and even into 32, and stuff like that sometimes takes some time to get out of your system when it happened to you for so long, that I was letting these people in my past who, you know, a lot of them were kids, and they probably didn't even realize completely what they were doing or whatever, but I was still letting them control me, and I was still letting them control my actions, because even when it came to things like choosing a church to go to or whatever, if I just thought a church had too many nice cars outside, or just, you know, if the pastor's wife looked like she had it all together or whatever, I would just automatically be like, no, that's not the place for me. And so it just really, it's like when I prayed to God and I was like, what do I need to do to be able to overcome? Because I wanted to be able to overcome poverty, and I wanted more for my kids, and I wanted more. He just began to show me, like, it's okay for you to be around those kind of people. And I had to really force myself to be comfortable being around people who were success-minded and who were, you know, who had nice things. And even for me to be okay with having things that were nice and okay for myself. I don't know if that
no, it does.
It's not that I go the opposite way. And, you know, I don't try to fill voids or anything like that with money, but even when people want to give me things, sometimes it's a struggle for me to
receive
to be able to accept that.
So
wow.
Jen, hold on. I want to interject right here. This is so powerful on so many different levels. I'm going to tell you why. Look at where a drug addiction started. It started not when you were 20. It started not when you were 15. It started when you were 9 and 10. I'm not saying that's when you started to do drugs. I'm saying that's when you started to reject yourself. And people who reject themselves will reject themselves into all kinds of painful things that destroy their bodies. It turns into self-hatred, and self-hatred drives somebody to doing drugs because it's self-destruction. And so isn't it crazy that we, number one, allow our kids to make fun of other kids, and we think there's no harm in it? Number 2, our kids suffer on a playground of being made fun of because of what? Not having the perfect hair, or not knowing how to dress, or the parents don't make enough money so that they can buy the right clothes, or whatever's popular, and they just don't simply fit in. And we allow our kids to bear that emotional pain, and we don't teach our kids the power of forgiveness and the importance of not harboring bitterness and resentment, because where does it go? Bitterness and resentment rots us out from the inside. You know that old thing that we used to say when we were kids, Jen, that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? That was a lie.
That's a lie.
That was such a lie. Because look at this. These seeds were planted in you and me as a kid. By the way, I was made fun of in the very same way. I know exactly what you're talking about. My parents were welfare recipients and drug addicts. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you don't even have to go to an affluent school to be made fun of. You don't. You get made fun of no matter what school you're in. But the thing that I found was interesting is that you rejected a whole populace of people who looked successful on the outside, and you were drawn to people who were not. So you even said, like, the choice that I made of who I married, that was based on, because I'm not worthy of those other kind of people. This is my class of people. My class of people are what? What was your class of people, Jen?
Usually just people who were okay with minimum wage, people who are okay with, and I understand some people,
But were they really okay, or did they complain all the time about what they didn't have, though, Jen? Think about it. Not okay. Were they okay? No.
They would complain, but they would make the decisions in life that would just
keep them there.
They wouldn't do any different, or
Exactly.
they would blame everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't okay with it. They weren't okay with it at all. They just didn't have the mental capacity to realize that they could choose to live a different life. So they made the choice to live in poverty. They made the choice not to get educated. They made the choice not to become better skilled in work or in relationships or grooming, for that matter. You know what I'm saying? To taking better care of themselves. They'd much rather just blame their surroundings and blame the boss and blame the president and blame the government and blame everybody else for why they didn't have what they have. That's the people I grew up with and around. Everybody else was at fault, but the one that was living in the mess. But isn't that just wild? By the way, I had the same thing, that it was, I never felt comfortable around educated people, ever. I just didn't. I was intimidated by all of them, and I felt stupid. And when I would open my mouth to start to talk, I would talk, in circles, or I would stutter, or they would look at me like I was stupid because of what I said was stupid. So therefore, I was always attracted to the pot smokers, right? Those that couldn't keep jobs, the abusers, physical abusers, the filthy mouthers. That's who I felt most comfortable with, because that's the house I grew up in. And I definitely convinced myself that I was not worthy or was not good enough to be in any other circumstance. So I'm really proud of you that you have been able to forgive those kids in your past, and that you realize that they probably don't even remember your name. They can't even remember making fun of you, but yet you are allowing them to torment you. You were allowing them to torment you as an adult. And I'm really, really proud of you that you made the choice to forgive each and every one of them, that you would be able to accept that, man, they were just kids. They were just kids. What they said was not right. And I'm sure that you've taught your kids to be a little different with each other and to not say terrible things to other kids or to their siblings or about anybody for that matter. And that's the good thing. That's a good benefit, by the way, that you had coming out of your childhood, that's not an option to talk down on somebody. It's not an option to make fun of someone's clothes. It's not an option to hurt people with your words. That's what came out of my childhood, is I was a Nazi on that one. Like, no! There was heavy consequences if people put somebody else down. Like, no! Mom would manifest greatly on that one. But anyway, I'm really proud of you, because that you could see your whole life was set up all based on hurt and unforgiveness out on the playground. and that you do not have to live there anymore, but you are a woman. You're a woman with wisdom and a whole new life ahead of you. Thanks so much for sharing, because that really applied to a whole lot of us. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
No matter what you think, feel, or imagine, if you want to make things right in your own life, you have to focus and believe. Stay tuned for helpful advice on life and more on The Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
Now, more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Dani Johnson, I'm just so angry. I don't know what to do about it. Well, you can stay angry or you can forgive. Choice is yours. One is going to bring great solutions and the other is going to bring great pain. Come on, you know that's true, friend. You know it's true. Being hateful never takes you to a great life, ever. It doesn't result in anything good. It turns you into a complainer and a whiner. And does anybody want to hear you whine? No. You know that no one wants to hear you whine. You're isolating yourself. People don't want to be around you anymore because you're whining. So you got a choice. Forgive and move on and give the gift that has been given to you when you've been a screw up. Come on. I know I've gotten plenty of gifts of forgiveness from people when I have been a screw up, most of all from my God. If I was God, I would have struck me down dead with lightning in front of everybody. Gosh, terrible. Thank God I'm not God. He's way more merciful than I am, that's for sure. Anyway, we're taking your call, 844-200-3264. We're talking about forgiveness, the power of it, the importance of it, and what happens when we don't. And so we've heard several different stories today of people who've had to move through some hard times. I mean, come on. One woman, her son was murdered. It doesn't get much bigger than that. That is horrifying. Another woman who was raped, who made the choice to forgive, and her body was healed as a direct result of it. The mom who's her 19-year-old was murdered, her statement was, why would I let everybody else suffer? And she said everyone was suffering because of my anger and my pain. I was an ugly person because I harbored unforgiveness. So going over to the phones, we've got Janet from Clarksville, Tennessee. Janet, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hey, Dani. I've been coming to First Step since January of 2011 and suffered migraines, terrible migraines. And I did not think I was going to be talking about this on the phone, but I will. Dani, I can't remember the number of years. It's over 10 years. I was molested by a husband and a wife.
Oh, Jesus.
And I forgive them. And that's why I have the compassion I have today. And I'm so grateful that I got to know Dani Johnson and everything that you've taught on the spiritual equipping, on forgiveness. And I read I've gone through your entire series, so, and more than one. So.
Janet, I'm so sorry. I am so
no, don't
sorry.
feel sorry. It was just, it's the past. But Do you want to hear any more about it?
I'm just floored. So it was a husband and wife team that molested you? How old were you?
I was 13.
That had to be so confusing. So confusing.
I was numb. I didn't know what it felt to have any kind of emotion. I was just numb.
Wow. So
And
were these...
It was only God that later I could get married. Because I had no idea. And I prayed. I remember praying. I said, God, am I going to be normal?
Gosh.
What's going to happen? No.
Wow.
But God was there.
So, Janet,
and I learned.
Were these family members, or was this
my girlfriend?
Your girlfriend's parents?
Correct.
And how did it come about? Like, were you at her house for a sleepover?
No. My mom, she lost her. My mom was she lost her place many times, where we lived. So my girlfriend took me in. My mom was off with a boyfriend, and that's just how it started. And then they sent their daughter away, and I couldn't talk about it.
Man.
No one would delete me.
Yes. Wow.
But trust me, I did not want to go. I didn't want. There's just so much to explain.
Yeah, no, I got you. You were. No.
I did not want to live that lifestyle.
Amen. Okay, Janet, hold on the phone because I know that there's somebody that's going to get healed from this testimony. We have to take a short break. We'll continue with more right after this.
Advice, life stories from callers, solutions. Stay tuned for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Call now, 888-757-8880. I'm going to send you our report on how to feed your family on $100 a week. Get this hot thing in your hand now and you can begin to save hundreds of dollars just on your food bill. No clipping coupons, no way. I'm talking about simple little things that still, even my position, I'm still able to feed my family on $100 a week or less. You are going to learn how to do the same thing. 888-757-8880. Call now. Get your copy of this report.
We're back. Here's Dani Johnson.
Sometimes you hear a story that just, it's hard to articulate. How could a husband and a wife who have a teenage daughter take in another daughter of somebody else? Like they took in their daughter's friend because the mom was messing around and then approach and molest this child who isn't even living in her own home, but was trusting that her girlfriend's parents were going to be safe. And then it comes to find out all of a sudden in one night that they weren't safe. Janet joins me now from Tennessee. Janet, I'm so blessed that you would be willing to be so transparent, that you would be willing to share your heart like this, because I just know that somebody is listening that is going through something like this right now, or it's the mother or the father who has molested a child, and they're hearing this right now, and they're hearing the pain of it, and it just might bring somebody to that place where they say, I need help. I need help. So Janet, your friend who you were living with was sent away, and you're there with her parents. And did they approach you together, or was it the father first that came in one night? How did that happen?
The father first.
And did you say something to his wife?
No, he brought me into their bedroom.
He brought you into their bedroom. She is there?
Uh-huh.
And they wanted a threesome with a 13-year-old.
No, I won't.
It's okay, Janet. You don't have to share more. The bottom line is that the woman, the mother, should have been one to...
They wanted to play. They wanted someone to play with them.
I'm so sorry that that woman did not protect you. You're a mother, you know, right? You know.
I protect my boys.
Exactly.
Trust me, I have.
Yeah. So as a mother, we have this instinct to protect the innocent and to protect especially a little girl. And obviously something incredibly perverted was inside of this family. And I'm so sorry that your mom...
She couldn't protect me.
Yeah.
She was an alcoholic.
She had her own set of problems. But Janet, here's what I'm so blessed to hear, is that you chose to forgive. You know, every time I'm doing first steps to success, and I'm looking at a sea of, you know, whether it's 600 or 1,000 or 1,300 people that I'm working with and training up to move past the things from our past and new skill sets for their finances, their business, their career, their relationship, I never know what the pain is that's in that room. I just can feel that there's a tremendous amount of pain. I can tell that something's gone really, really wrong as I see the tears coming down people's faces. And I can sense the argument saying, but Dani, you don't know. You don't know what they did to me. Janet, you've given me a whole deeper revelation of the possibilities. Just as the other callers have called in, you know, one woman who said, I forgave at First Steps to Success, the man who raped me. He was a married man and he raped me. That's huge. You know, I can't imagine that kind of pain. But Janet, what you're talking about is a whole another level of deep, deep pain. And yet you took the invitation to forgive. You took the invitation to forgive.
I've gotten much better.
Yes. So you lived with this for a good, how many years? 30 years without forgiving?
Oh, yeah.
How did that manifest in its... How did that manifest? How did that pain... like you said, you were afraid you could never get married, and you were afraid you would never be normal.
Well, then I started looking for someone that would reject me, of course, because, you know, I rejected myself.
Yeah.
Therefore, I found someone to reject me.
Yeah.
I found a husband that would reject me. So, obviously, he did. After 4 children, he walked out. I mean, I set myself up for this.
Yeah.
So that's why I forgive him easily, because I knew I had some part in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. I had done the same thing. I understand. You know, when we're carrying that rejection, when we've rejected ourselves, we will provoke other people to reject us. We will say things that are not right. We won't trust them. Right? I'm sure you didn't trust your husband. You didn't think he would protect you. You probably accused him of things that he didn't do, and yet then eventually...
No, I didn't. I was blind, trust me.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, Janet, I'm really proud of you for forgiving both the perpetrators. I am so proud of you for forgiving your mother and moving on and making that choice to live as a whole person in the best way that you possibly can, and allowing God to heal you of such a traumatic experience. Not only the experience as a 13-year-old being molested by a husband and wife couple, but also the traumatic experience of your husband walking out on you with 4 kids. This is trauma, and you're here as a testimony today to say, I have forgiven. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I love that you know that the Lord was with you, and he carried you, and he walked you through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And thank you for everything that you've done for me, Dani.
Thank you, Janet, for everything you just did for all of us. It's a really powerful story. I appreciate you tremendously. Wow, man, you just never know, friend. You just never know. And you know what's so powerful about today's show is that, you know, here we like to hold on to little tiny things, right? We like to hold on to little offenses. Somebody lied, you know, not that that's a little thing, but I mean, to you it might be a big thing, but come on now. Come on now. We've heard of a rape. We've heard of a mother's son being murdered. We've heard of a 13-year-old being molested by a husband and wife couple at the same time. Come on now. Talk about that. That is a deep, traumatic pain. And I don't know what you're holding against your boss or your husband or your child. I don't know what you're holding against somebody from the playground back when you were in the 3rd grade. It doesn't matter if it's as big as the 3 that I just told you about. What matters is that you choose to walk in freedom by choosing to forgive. Line 1, we've got Lucretia from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dani.
Hi. Crazy stories today, man, right, Lucretia? Wow.
I'm just, I was, I don't know. I mean, when y'all asked me to share, I just, the main thing is about forgiveness is unforgiveness for me gave anger and resentment kind of a breeding ground.
Yes.
It was like it just kind of would grow and grow, and in listening to, just different people share, I mean, really, brings a lot up for me. I mean, how unforgiveness really has played so much in my life of, and I think for me it's really just, realizing that, I have a relationship with the Lord, and it's like realizing that the lies that I believed, and that's how I think it kind of prevented, the things that happened kind of attached to the lies I believed about myself.
Yep.
And that just really kind of started a whole, process at a very young age. One of the ladies shared that she was raped, and I was raped when I was 17 in my own home. And it wasn't, it was by sodomy. And so it's like I have forgiven him, and I'm very grateful that the Lord has brought me into a place where I can say that, because I truly have forgiven him. But that started a whole tidal wave of things in my life of not trusting people that really, that I felt really should have protected me, being in my own home. And just, I'm on my 4th marriage. Wow. Because of it, I just accept that the choices that I've made throughout my life have just been from, things that happen and lies that I believed throughout my whole life. So, it was real interesting. I think it was Jen that brought up growing up with not a lot of money, and how being around people that had money, and I really, it just made me, it really touched a chord with me. That I'm walking into currently an opportunity that the Lord is just really bringing me to, and He's been shedding a lot off of me.
Amen. Amen. Yes, bad lies in which we have believed, and it's so easy to believe those. Hold on one second. I want to hear the rest of your story. We'll continue with more with Dani Johnson right after this.
Good people bring out the good in people. And you're sharing great moments with thousands of good people right now. There's more of the Dani Johnson Show coming up. Stay here.
I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880. Or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's D-A-N-I Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
Giving you the playbook to design your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show. And now, here's Dani.
Dani, they don't deserve forgiveness. How in the world could you challenge me to forgive when they don't deserve it? Listen, I know where you're at right there. I've been there. The fact is that you and I don't deserve forgiveness either. That's the reality. None of us deserve it. It's a gift from God, a loving God, a loving God. who has forgiven us for the things we don't deserve it for. I don't believe any of us deserve it. But Dani, I'm not as evil as that guy that sodomized that 17-year-old in her house. She was raped. It's wrong. You're right. It is wrong. And it's also wrong to judge. It is also wrong to not forgive. Do you realize that unforgiveness is an unforgivable sin, according to the Bible? That if you will not forgive your perpetrator, if you will not forgive those who have offended you, hurt you, physically molested you, raped you, murdered your son, then you'll not be forgiven. And the reality is that I love what Lucretia was just saying, because she said that unforgiveness was the breeding ground for anger. Like anger grew in her unforgiveness. And she allowed herself to make really bad choices moving forward, not forgiving that man who raped her when she was 17 in her own home, not forgiving the people who she thinks should have protected her. She hadn't forgiven. Now she's in her fourth marriage. So there's no question that unforgiveness plays a huge part in our lives. If we allow the poison to grow, it will overtake us. But if we choose to serve it up with our antidote, which is forgiveness, we choose to forgive, then we can have peace. Lucretia, first of all, thanks so much for your transparency and thanks for sharing. I can't imagine at 17 how awful and painful and confusing that had to have been. Was this a boyfriend? Was this a father figure, an uncle, a family member that sodomized you at 17?
It was actually a guy that my parents were letting live in our house. My parents are wonderful Christian people, and they let him live in our house. And one afternoon, while they were both gone, it happened, and he actually moved out the next day and left. And I suppressed it. I blamed myself. I mean, I found out later I blamed myself because I must have done something right for that to happen. Yeah. I must have dressed the wrong way or done the wrong thing. And
when did you tell your parents? When did you tell your mom and dad what happened?
I didn't tell my parents until, 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I'm 46.
Wow. What did they say?
They were, and I had to forgive them for their response.
Yeah.
Because I know if my 22-year-old daughter told me what I told them, I would be like, I would really, I had to protect myself. I had to be honest that their response was even hurtful.
Yeah.
But lack of response. But it's, everybody responds in a different way.
Yeah.
And I accept that. But their response was just like, that was not, it was just like, wow, that's a really bad thing, but it just, honestly.
Meaning that they didn't get angry, they weren't upset, they weren't crying, they didn't want to go find the guy and kill him. You know what I mean? That's what you were looking for in a response. That's what I'd be looking for in a response. But, it is what it is.
Right, so I had to walk through that of forgiving them and accepting their response and just and really understanding. And only in the past 4 years has the Lord. I have just grown with the Lord and had an understanding that the Lord was there when it happened.
Yeah.
Because I questioned if He was.
Yeah.
But He was there when it happened, and we live in the fallen world, and that's why it happened.
Yeah.
And how it's a part of my testimony now. It's a part of my but it was a tidal wave of, pretty much that following summer did my eating disorder, bulimia, start, and my just self-image issues. I really didn't like myself too much, and so it really started just all of that, which most of it, I would say most of it I've already walked through and forgiven. And by the grace of the Lord, am I a new person?
He is so faithful. He is so faithful. He is so faithful. You know, I think some people have a really hard time with even the revelation that Jesus was there during this trauma. And somebody will say, well, why didn't he do anything? We live in a fallen world. This is not heaven yet. This is not heaven. And the fact is that we go through painful trials and sufferings for it to produce something great out of us. I had this conversation with somebody about 2 years ago where I had this revelation as I was coaching somebody, and it was this: good character doesn't come out of the good times. It comes out of the bad ones. And trust is not built out of the good, wonderful Disneyland times. Trust is built through the really hard, nasty ones. And that is, in this case, the trust in the Lord that Lucretia has today was in the bad situations that he has walked us through, healed us from, delivered us from. Through all of those things, because most of the time when we're walking through those things, we're not trusting him, we're not walking with him, we're not turning to him, we're turning away from him, we're getting embittered towards him. We turn around and we say, we curse him, we hate him, we run as far away from him as we possibly can, and he allows that to happen. But he's still there, knocking on the door of our hearts, saying, turn to me and I will heal you. Turn to me, and I will set you free. Turn to me, and I will make all things new. Turn to me, and I will make you a new creature in me. Turn to me, and all the old has passed away. Turn to me, and I will set you free. That's what he is there for. He's our healer, our deliverer, our redeemer. Well, if we're not sick, do we need to be healed? No. If we're not bound up, do we need to be delivered? No. And if we haven't fallen down, do we need to be redeemed? No. He's our healer. He's our deliverer. He's our redeemer. For why? For when we find ourselves in these places. Whether we found them ourselves or somebody else has put us there, regardless, he is there and wants to heal, set free, and deliver. He wants to redeem. He wants to reconcile us to him. And we've got to see these horrible, tormenting times as opportunity to walk with him. This is Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow about another topic that's going to change some area of your life. Goodbye. Have a great day. I remember being homeless and broke and broken in every way and being overloaded with financial pressure, the pressure that I was a failure, the social pressure, everything that I felt like was crashing down on top of me. And at the same time, I felt so alone until I learned the strategies of first steps to success. You have the chance, my friend, to annihilate all of your debt. Think about that. You have the chance to grow your income through your current career or even learning to start a brand new business that will be profitable. You also have the chance for learning how to motivate the people that are in your life that are driving you crazy and how to have significant breakthrough, not only spiritually, but physically, financially, and socially, and business-wise. And so I'm excited to see you at First Steps to Success. It's coming up January 17th through the 19th. Get yourself registered today, 888-757-8880. There's a seat with your name on it, friend. 888-757-8880.